What's going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba here with James Grande, bringing you the FA Sports Talk Waiver Wire Tuesday special here. James, obviously everybody is looking at ways to improve their team as we head into Week 9 of the fantasy football season. The Waiver Wire is still a place to go out and head and do it. Some names that are going to be popular off the wire this week. How you doing? How are you ready for this week?
I like this waiver wire. I think last week was probably the toughest waiver wire that we've had to date. Just navigating all these backfields that we had no answers for. But this week we're getting answers early. We know the situation in Green Bay early. Yeah. We know Kenny Gallaudet has already been ruled out. So we're getting answers that we weren't getting Tuesday, Wednesday of last week. So, I mean, I like it better going into Week 9 for sure.
Yeah, now obviously, if you do have a member of the Green Bay Packers backfield, Aaron Jones not going to play. Now we know that Jamal Williams not going to be able to play due to the close contact with COVID. AJ Dillon's out because of COVID. So let's just get off the bat and start off at that running back spot. Do you have any interest in a Tyler Irvin or Dexter Williams, even if it's only for a 1 week ad?
I don't really know because they have had no sample size in the NFL, both of them. So I guess Tyler Irvin seems the more safe option, but I think that this is just going to be a pass-heavy attack with Aaron Rodgers on Thursday. So I don't love this situation. This is probably my least favorite of like this whole waiver wire week because we don't know. I mean, we saw like an unknown in DJ Dallas fall into 2 touchdowns after a bad week last week. So like if Tyler Irvin gets the same amount of volume and doesn't fall into 2 touchdowns, well, he's going to ruin your day. So I guess Irvin slightly, but I don't love either of them.
A couple of rookies that had breakout weeks last week, Zach Moss, J.K. Dobbins. Of the two, do you have a lean towards either of them if you're looking to spend some fab money this week?
So I think there's a clear-cut path to Moss long-term over Dobbins because for whatever reason, Baltimore does like Mark Ingram, and I think that Singletary will be phased out. Unfortunately, I did like Singletary before the year faster than Ingram will and probably faster than J.K. Dobbins or Gus Edwards, sorry. But when you listen to Baltimore's schedule, right, if they can just commit to Dobbins, they get Indy, which is not the easiest matchup, but then they get New England, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, who was just gashed by this Baltimore team, Dallas, Cleveland, Jacksonville, the Giants. So, like, we have, like, an elite schedule where we can probably flex J.K. Dobbins weekly if he's getting 10-plus touches. I mean, he's averaging 6.7 yards per carry, John. It's very hard not to like him. They should be using him
more than they have until this point of the year, to be honest with you.
That being said, it's probably Zach Moss just based on sure volume right now, just because when Mark Ingram returns, how much of that volume goes to him, or how much of that volume from last week going to Dobbins goes to him. So slightly Moss. The upside though for Dobbins is just through the roof.
It really is. I agree. Listen, I like Moss. I feel like a lot of people gave up after him because he got hurt earlier in the year. But he gave him the 1 game back. And now the last couple of weeks, he's been an effective play. And it seems like we're seeing the player that, they talked a lot about during camp, how he's going to come in and potentially overtake Singletary, be involved in the passing attack, and, now healthier. Granted, again, facing some, horrible defenses in the Jets and Patriots the last couple of weeks is going to help you make yourself look good. I think he's solid moving forward as well. How are you feeling with the Colts situation? Jonathan Taylor dealing with some sort of mild ankle injury. We saw both Nyheim Hines and Jordan Wilkins have big games. Hines was probably a popular waiver ad, after week 1 when he found the end zone, but hadn't done much since. Are you willing to recommit to Hines? Would you throw some money in on Wilkins? Or do you think this situation is just too much of a toss-up to really know?
I mean, there's probably a reason why we've seen Jordan Wilkins be a career backup. It's just he goes up against one of the worst run defensive according to DVOA in Detroit and was able to take advantage of that. So I'm not buying completely into it. We do, I don't want to be interested, especially with Baltimore coming up. But I mean, 20 touches is something to take note of. And then, but doesn't that play into more Nyheim Hines considering it's Baltimore. Like, he'll probably be on the field more considering Indy is likely trailing in this game.
Yeah, and he's definitely the better pass catcher. I mean,
Right.
Wilkins has shown the ability to catch a little bit, but I mean, this is definitely a scenario where Hines would be on the field more. Plus, we need to know exactly how injured, I guess, this ankle supposedly is of Taylor. Taylor's certainly capable of catching the football a little bit as well. So, of the situations that we're looking at the running back this week, I definitely don't want to be overspending on a guy like Jordan Wilkins, knowing that Taylor's, still available. And, what are the odds that Wilkins, he ran against the Lions. I mean, that's one of the worst run defenses in football. We were all playing Taylor last week, expecting what we got out of Wilkins to go for him. The injury obviously, set that aside. So it's hard to continue to really trust that level of production, continuing on. James, any other sort of running backs maybe available in the waiver wire this week that you have your eye on?
Your Patriots have Damian Harris. He's been inconsistent, and the game script won't probably be in his favor often because he just is not involved in the passing game. But 2 of the 4 games that the Patriots have been in close contest, he's gone over 100 yards and he's gotten the work. So I would
the Jets this week too.
So. Yeah, and he has the Jets, and the Jets are better against the run, and we saw that last week. They shut down both CEH and Bell, and maybe that's to a bigger extent because Patrick Mahomes just lit them up. But I mean, they are ranked in the top half of the league against the run. But I would be going Harris. I would be interested in Harris, like short-term pickup, probably more of an RB4. Long term, fine for a buy. I guess Jermichael Hasty is available in a bunch of leagues. I could be interested there. Tevin Coleman got hurt again. Right. Jerick McKinnon was only playing on third downs with the tired legs last week. So we saw Hasty get double-digit carries for the first time this year, but he's also not involved in the passing game. That's going to all go to Jerick McKinnon. So Hasty and Harris to a lesser extent. I think they're both like RB4, RB5 territory in 12-team leagues.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would like Hasty probably a little bit more than Harris just because the way I feel like the 49ers offense is better, like as a whole. Now, it's not saying much, obviously, because, their offense is missing some key pieces. I've just seen the Patriots in like you mentioned, the inconsistency. There's still guys like Rex Burkhead, James White there in New England that could potentially cut in to the value. And if Cam Newton keeps staying strong to where he is, there's potential for, touchdown vulturing and whatnot, where at least Hasty seemingly for now has the backfield primarily to himself. If we want to look at the quarterback position, we can go to the 49ers here. They're going to be without now Jimmy Garoppolo for the next handful of weeks. We've seen Nick Mullins before. They've gone back and forth with different quarterbacks. They're sticking with Mullins now. Does Mullins have any interest to you this week against the Packers?
I mean, sure. We've seen him throw for 300 in a game. He's awfully inconsistent. He was even benched when he was the backup this year. So, can we really trust that? I think there are probably names I would prefer to stream. Your favorite quarterback this year is out there in over half Yahoo leagues.
It's a crime. Derek Carr should be owned in more leagues.
So I think if you're in a 12 or 14 team league or a 2 quarterback league, I think it's worth going out and getting Mullins because there's probably not a Derek Carr sitting on the waiver wire. But in a 12 team league, I mean, Derek Carr has a really good matchup this week. He has a pretty favorable schedule, and he hasn't even gotten his best offensive weapon involved. And you have to assume Henry Ruggs is going to be involved more in the second half of the year. So if we're ranking Mullins amongst QB buys, he'd probably be near the bottom. He'd probably be 3 or 4, but I think he's decent.
What about your quarterback, Daniel Jones? Would you trust him this week against Washington?
Quarterback? He plays quarterback? I thought he was I don't know. He didn't even run last night, which was disappointing. No. And I get it because Tampa has the number 1 run defense. But it wasn't like they weren't being. I mean, the Giants moved the chains with Wayne Gallman and Alfred Morris last night on the ground. So, one of those could have been tucked by Daniel Jones, which we like to see. And that's honestly where his fantasy value has come from this year. It has not come from, yes, he threw 2 touchdowns, but he threw 2 picks to negate those. So I don't love Daniel Jones necessarily. I would probably go after someone like Drew Lock over Daniel Jones, who looked at, you and I had spoken on it. He was given protection in that second half of the game, and he looked very good. And he has weapons. He has a lot of weapons.
Matchup this week too,
and he has the matchup. He actually has, so in 3 of the next 4 games, he has Falcons, Raiders, and Saints. And the Dolphins throw in there, and the Dolphins are very good in their secondary. That's what they, paid Byron Jones to do. And they have Damian Harris, so I'm not starting him there. But if you're really desperate at quarterback, Drew Lock can be streamed in 3 of those games. Falcons, Raiders, bottom 3 in DVOA, and the Saints. Lattimore has looked like a shell of himself.
Right.
So I think Locke could be a pretty interesting. I would pick both Carr and Locke over Mullins if all 3 of them were on the wire.
I would definitely take that as well. Again, if you're looking to stream, I think this is one of the best weeks for Locke. Fant's back and healthy. He's getting targeted heavily. Judy saw 10 targets last week. Was able to rip off a big game there. So a lot of inexperience, obviously, in that offense. But this is a matchup that it can certainly go ahead and take advantage of it. What the thing with Daniel Jones, I think that is worth mentioning, at least to me, it feels like with Sterling Shepard back at least and healthy, it gives him another legitimate receiving option to throw the football to. He's not forced trying to get it to Slayton, or trying to force it in there to Evan Ingram at times. I was stunned to see the number of 3 tight end sets last night. It feels like they're just not using Golden Tate correctly at all. Right. Tate made that huge catch at the end of the game last night for the touchdown. Almost set them up to go into overtime. But again, he was only on the field for 30% of the snaps, and I don't really understand that. I know they need the protection. They struggle, injuries on the offensive line. Maybe that's why they wanted against that Tampa Bay. But they were throwing passes to Tuilovo, and I know Caden Smith's okay and whatnot, but you don't need 3 tight ends out there for passing plays. While you have Golden Tate, on the bench. So to me, that was feels like a little bit underused. But when the entire offense is healthy and you put out Ingram and you put out Slayton, Shepard, and Tate, there's a lot of weapons there for Jones to get the football to if he can, at least correctly read the defense. So a matchup against Washington this week, though Washington coming off a bye. It was one of the reasons why I wanted to at least bring him up and get your opinion, being a Giants fan that you are.
You're not. So I agree with your idea, because Sterling Shepard has looked great and he's opened up a lot of the offense for sure. But they do need the help on the line. I mean, Andrew Thomas has been terrible. He has been terrible, and he's covering Daniel Jones' blindside. So they are going to have those second and third tight ends on the field. And John, we know who the offensive coordinator is for the Giants, right?
Yeah, it's Jason Garrett.
So I mean, I will say there has been creativity. We have seen more creativity over the last couple weeks. We did see Golden Tate throw a pass last night, and
it broke my heart because I had the over receptions prop.
And he had 2, and he had 2. I saw.
They threw to him, but he threw it, so it didn't count. But yeah.
I mean, I think Jones hurts from Jason Garrett. And I guess the jury's still out on Jason Garrett as a play caller because he didn't call plays in Dallas for 10 years. So, but it just hasn't looked good. And all those missed throws, John, all those.
Well, yeah. Garrett was open a lot of times.
He should have had 5 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns. He should have had 5 touchdowns last night. Yeah. He had 0.
Not good. No, it wasn't good. I get it. Let's talk about the wide receiver position. Guys that are available here. The big name that went down this week, at least in my opinion, was Kenny Gallaudet. We, as a fantasy community, had been begging for Marvin Jones to take advantage of the games in which Gallaudet was out. For a while he didn't, but recently he's sort of at least now back to being a semi-productive receiver here. 2 touchdowns last week at 80 yards against Atlanta. Are you buying in on Marvin Jones here, or do you think there's someone else in Detroit that you have more interest in?
So, we saw this scenario already, right? We saw this earlier in the year because Kenny Gallaudet didn't play the first 2 games, and Marvin Jones was blanketed and did absolutely nothing. So, I like the recent production, and that's nice. I like the targets are nice. I definitely prefer him over the other Marvin Hall, because
I was going to say, because Marvin Hall had 113 yards last week, and I feel like he's on a lot of people's radars this week.
I mean, I just we haven't seen a large sample for Marvin Hall, And 75, and I get it. Like, Marvin Hall is that big play guy. Like, he can stretch the field. He is very fast. And we saw it on like a 75-yard bomb, and he just ran past everyone. But Marvin Jones, we know the touchdown upside's there. Marvin Hall, we don't. The jury's still out there. So I prefer Marvin Jones in that situation, but it does scare me to see 8 and 6 targets the first 2 weeks and just little to zero production. And that's where my restraint comes in, because I think there are a lot of really good options at wide receiver this week. So as much as I like Marvin Jones, I think I have a lean in a couple other places over him.
All right, who are some of the top receivers that you're looking at this week?
I mean, I think Corey Davis should be the number one priority at wide receiver, and he's only owned in 48% of Yahoo leagues. When you look at the production and you match it up to AJ Brown, and I agree that AJ Brown is an absolute freak of a human being and a freak on the field, but this is the same sentiments that we had about Corey Davis coming into the league. It just hasn't panned out. They have the same amount of targets in the same amount of games played. He has scored double figures in PPR formats in every week that he has played. And we're talking about a guy who has had 10 and 10 targets in back-to-back games. I think Corey Davis he's obviously jumped Jonnu Smith in the target tree. Adam Humphrey took a brutal hit last week, so he's going to miss time. It's really two guys in the passing game, because we know that Derrick Henry isn't going to catch any passes either. So as long as we continue to get the volume from Tannehill, and I think we will, because Tennessee is running a lot of offensive snaps, I think Corey Davis should be the number one priority on this waiver wire at the position. And I don't think he's ever going to overthrow AJ Brown as like a wide receiver one. I don't. But I do think Corey Davis deserves the respect I can't speak today, man. Deserve the respect that he's probably not getting, considering he's only owned in 48% of Yahoo leagues.
Yeah, I feel like there was like a reputation just because of last year with Corey Davis sort of like burning people. In 2018, he had almost 900 yards receiving, playing with like Marcus Mariota in group at quarterback, right? So now they obviously have better quarterback play with Tannehill, and we're starting, to see sort of them develop a nice little chemistry with one another. So I don't hate it. Again, it still feels weird to trust Corey Davis, but it makes a lot of sense to me. Someone that I'm kind of going in on it, and it's more of a speculative act because I'm still suspect on whether or not it's going to actually continue this way. But Mike Williams was the guy that I was high on coming into the year. Justin Herbert became the quarterback and just had eyes only for Keenan Allen, except for the one game which Keenan Allen got hurt against New Orleans, and Mike Williams went for 5 and 109. They go against Jacksonville. He sees just 3 targets, 1 catch. You're like, all right, Allen's back. He's not throwing to Williams anymore. But then against Denver, 8 targets, 5 for 99. And I tweeted out, if Justin Herbert's going to start looking at Mike Williams, look out, because I think that, Herbert at quarterback does wonders for that passing offense. So, now we have Mike Williams here. He's got the Raiders coming up, not a strong secondary. The Jets, Buffalo, New England could be without Gilmore, Atlanta. Like, the schedule coming up for the Chargers is fantastic. And a lot of people had let Mike Williams go because of how he had played. I think now's the time to jump back on board.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the league's best deep threats, period. I mean, he averaged over 20 yards a catch and had 1,000 yards last year on 48 receptions. Like, that's insane. And he's right on par again this year, over 17 yards per reception. And we're talking about, I'm like willing to go as far as saying Justin Herbert has one of the best deep balls in football already. The arm strength has never.
You've seen him connect with Guyton like a handful of times, right?
I mean, the arm strength has never been in doubt about Justin Herbert from day one, except by Anthony Lynn, who probably still wants Tyrod to play. But
still wants Tyrod to play. Yeah.
I do think that there is a lot of merit, as long as Mike Williams stays healthy, to being. He's probably like. He's another guy I'd probably prioritize over Marvin Jones just because of his big play potential and how just teams are going to focus on Marvin Jones without Kenny Gallaudet. They don't have that option in this Los Angeles offense, considering there's Keenan Allen and Hunter Henry. Like, I think the Chargers offense has a lot more weapons that Mike Williams is going to see a lot more one-on-one coverage. So I'm right there. I think Mike Williams is an elite ad, and he's available everywhere, everywhere.
He's in 50% available in 50% of Yahoo standard. I mean, ESPN standard. I don't have the Yahoo percentage in front of me. I'm not sure if you have that or not, but if you're in the league, definitely check your waiver wire. Check out if Mike Williams is available. After the one catch game against Jacksonville, maybe he was cut by some team. So definitely taking a look at him there. Someone that I added actually a couple weeks ago, just based off potential return from IR, is Lazard. Now the Packers are obviously linked to the potential of Will Fuller. We're seeing reports today that there's some sort of internal conflict back and forth at the top of the Packers organization about whether or not it's worth giving up the cost to get Will Fuller for basically what is a rental. Fuller is going to be a free agent at the end of this year, so there's no guarantees they bring him back. If he doesn't come back, Lazard practiced all last week, didn't get activated, could very well be activated this week. Thoughts on him when he does return, because he was an effective number 2 in Green Bay early this year.
I mean, we'll find out in the next 40 minutes whether or not Will Fuller is a Packer or not. The target tree in Green Bay is 2 guys, and it's Davante Adams and it's Davante Adams. I mean, but no, it's Robert Tonyan, which is apparently the now correct.
Tonyan, it's like a Funyun, but it's Tonyan.
That's it. Nobody else. You'll sprinkle in St. Brown and Valdez-Scantling and the running backs are good pass catchers, but Lazard was really good in the 2 games he played. So I'm fine with Lazard. I think I've had him stashed on my IR in a couple leagues. I took him in a lot of best balls. So I'm with you. I think that they're and Aaron Rodgers is throwing a lot this year. So it's not like
this. No running backs this week.
Right. So if we do get Lazard back on a short week, I'm interested. And it's funny to me. A lot of these guys who are coming back from injury are not being eased in. Jalen Reagor, who I think is a viable add on this, played 46 of 63 snaps last week. These guys are not being eased into workloads. So I think that Alan Lazard's fine, and if he does play Thursday, we're going to see a normal workload, maybe enough for a flex play, because Green Bay just literally has to throw the ball every time their offense takes the field.
Last receiver I want to bring up to you is one that I'm actually not personally high on, but I know with the injury to Calvin Ridley, a lot of people are going to go back to Russell Gage here. I feel like Gage is his best when he's in his number 3 receiver role, basically. When he doesn't have to be asked to do more than what is required of him, he can be a productive option for Matt Ryan. You look at the game logs and games where Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley were healthy. We've seen Gage put up and have strong performances. Where games where Julio was out, or Ridley was a non-factor, Gage really wasn't that involved in the offense. But again, with Ridley being injured, I feel like a lot are going to go to him this week. Do you have an opinion on Russell Gage? Do you think he's capable of stepping up into the shoes of fill Calvin Ridley, who's likely not playing this week?
Not really, because he's not even if Calvin Ridley doesn't play. And first off, Calvin Ridley has had an extra 4 days to get healthy because they played Thursday. So considering he was only ruled day to day, I don't even know if he misses this game. So if he doesn't, I think Russell Gage is droppable in all formats. I don't think there's really a point to having him. And if Ridley doesn't play, Hayden Hurst is still the second option. We've seen Hayden Hurst dominate the last couple weeks, a guy who's put up 10 plus fantasy points in all but 1 game this year. So I still think Gage is technically the third option. We've seen an emergence from Brian Hill out of the backfield as well. So I don't necessarily think Russell Gage makes my I don't want to really waste fab personally. Maybe if I was desperate, I would consider it. But there's also Curtis Samuel that's on the wire everywhere. There's probably Kendrick Bourne who's on the wire everywhere.
Right.
Auden Tate had a big game, and will AJ Green be dealt? Probably not, because the contract is crazy. But Auden Tate had 7 targets and 6 catches for 60 yards last week, and we've seen Auden Tate be productive in the past. So I don't think there's a need for I'm blanking on Russell Gage. Yeah.
No,
That's how much I think of. That's how much I think of Russell Gage.
All right, you mentioned Hayden Hurst. I think it's a good transition to wrap this up here at the tight end position. Obviously, George Kittle going down is the big news here. Jordan Reed is expected back this week. How much of your fab money would you throw in him? How interested are you in Jordan Reed? I mean, he is basically the Mr. Glass of the NFL, essentially at the tight end position. Are you one that's going to dive back in here?
I don't see. I mean, tight end is so bad. Why not take a shot? I mean, if you don't have, one of the top 5 guys, and now probably 4 because Kittle's out. I mean, why not? I don't think it really hurts. If you're taking a shot on Jordan Reed, you probably have a contingency plan. So, I think he's an elite talent. He just can't stay healthy, like you said. So, if you have a deep bench or you have a need at tight end and you want to, sure. I don't see, he looked good, but like here the problem is, like, I don't know. There's no one healthy on that San Francisco offense. So, like, realistically, if Jordan Reed comes in and is super healthy, can he see the second or third most targets? Like, do you think
Ayuk will obviously that one huge game? Obviously, I think it was against the Jets, right, where he had the two scores and then got hurt right away with the Giants, and then he got hurt the next week. We never really got to see more out of him. So, I mean, Mullins could throw in the football, and there's potential for some upside there. The Eagles are on a bye this week. Dallas Goedert, I'm looking at ESPN Yahoo, 60% owned. So in some standard league formats, he's still available. Would you take a stab at Dallas Goedert here if available?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned the snaps with, like, people returning. Goddard played 53 of 63 snaps, so he was on the field. Wentz just didn't throw the ball, and when he was throwing the ball, he was horrible. So two fumbles,
2 picks. Not what you're looking for. It's Dallas.
So. Right. So, like, they didn't need to throw the ball. He didn't throw the ball well when he did throw the ball. So I think Goddard is completely fine. Maybe he's probably not my number 1 priority. I get it, but I think, like, Dan has, Eric Ebron has been under the radar good
Dallas
lately,
this week,
and gets Dallas this week. I mean, 9+ fantasy points in PPR formats in 4 of his last 5, which you are not getting from tight end very often. And we know the touchdown upside. We've seen he had 1,000 2 years ago, literally 1,000. If you go to his, like, it says 1,000 on it. And then, I mean, how can you not, like, if you have a solidified tight end or someone that you could play this week, go after Austin Hooper, who's on a bye this week? I mean, I think that would probably be my number 1 priority at tight end this week, Austin Hooper. But they're on a bye, so I don't think a lot of people are going to put a lot of fab on him because they probably need the help this week. A lot of the Kittle owners, right? They're probably like, well, damn, I lost George Kittle. I can't pick up Austin Hooper. But, I mean, man, 6+ targets in the 3 games prior to his appendectomy, 10 targets in week 5. He had 5+ receptions in all those games, 10+ fantasy points in PPR. And what's the kicker? No OBJ. So, like, I think Austin Hooper is probably the tight end 1 on the waiver wire this week.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the one thing that's appealing to Austin Hooper, especially if you're sort of already locked into maybe your playoff schedule and whatnot, or for playoff standings, week 15, week 16, which are usually championship weeks for fantasy football, the Giants and Jets are on the Cleveland Browns schedule there. So Hooper, I agree with you. 52% of standard leagues on ESPN, 39% rostered in Yahoo. So definitely available in some of your leagues right now. And like James said, the fact that he was injured, the fact that they're on a bye likely means that he's going to go a little bit overlooked for those looking for immediate replacements like an Ebron, like maybe even a Trey Burton who scored again this week. And I agree. I think Hooper saw his role increasing. It's almost as if they told Baker Mayfield, hey, we paid this guy. Right. Maybe you should start throwing him the football, and so they did. So good stuff there. James, give me a defense that you're looking at this week if you're looking to stream.
Streaming defense, I will go with man. I mean, like it's easy to say Miami after last week, but I'm not picking them against Arizona. I will say Kyler is susceptible to interceptions. I'll go with the Raiders picking off Justin Herbert twice. Or Houston. I know Houston's bad, but Jacksonville's starting a 6th-round rookie, so
Right.
maybe Houston is the move here.
All right. So I actually like Arizona. The fact that they're home coming off a bye is basically the same reason why I liked Miami last week, was the fact that they were home coming off a bye. And they had the Rams traveling into Miami on the Saturday. Well, now Miami's traveling into Arizona on a team that's off a bye here. The Cardinals defense actually has been pretty solid lately, even though they're missing Chandler Jones, who's on IR. Patrick Peterson hasn't been the same guy, but Tua showed us pretty much nothing really in his debut. The defense did a lot of the scoring work for them there. So for me, Arizona is probably my top stream defense of the week. The Steelers are going to be the top overall defense, but you can't get the Steelers anywhere. But off waivers, I'd be targeting Arizona this week if you can go ahead and get them. But James, already 30 minutes up. It's been a quick here. We have Dan Malin's waiver wire article on Fantasy Alarm. You can go check that out. Now, of course, if you have any fantasy football or waiver wire questions, hit us up in chat. Get us on Twitter. We know we're here to help you guys out and try to get you guys in the best chance to be successful. James, any final parting thoughts here?
No, Washington would be. I'll just throw Washington's name against Daniel Jones and the Giants as a streamer as well.
Was the stat Daniel Jones has 45 turnovers now?
Second, yeah, he passed Jameis as the most in his first 20 games.
Yeah, something absurd. A lot of turnovers from Danny Dimes there.
Danny Pennies.
Yeah, Danny Pennies, exactly. So, all right, guys, that wraps it up for us. Again, hit us on Twitter, get us in chat. You know where to find us. We'll catch you guys next time.